So my research topic is improving self-esteem for GLBT youth, and the population of GLBT adolescents experiences a lot of negative mental health outcomes as adults, such as depression and low self-esteem and suicidal ideology because of experiences that they may have as youth. And so I decided to research whether a structured peer support group for GLBT youth in high schools would improve self-esteem. And to complete this project, I will be selecting a sample from Houston Independent School District, just randomly putting half of the schools in a group to receive the program and half of the schools to not receive the program. Because of the sensitive nature of the population, my participants would be self-identified, and so it's difficult to randomize participants to either being in the group or not be in the group. So that's why I chose to randomize the schools. And I would measure self-esteem using the Rosenberg self-esteem scale, and participation would just be yes or no. And I explained a little bit more about the program in my actual paper, but there would be 6 lessons, and they would generally be self-guided by the participants. They would have to address the topics specifically for the lesson, but participants would be able to contribute a lot.
Okay. And how did you get involved in this with the GLBT youth?
Well, I'm working on another master's degree right now. In addition to my master's in social work, I'm also working on a master's in public health from UT. And I'm doing a thesis right now for that degree that explores the best mechanism of social support for GLBT adolescents to improve mental health outcomes as a whole. So this topic was relevant to my research there. And it also is relevant to my current field placement, which is at Lee High School. We have a large population of GLBT youth there, and we have a group called Safe Zones that comes in and provides support to the youth.
For this research topic, the perpetrators are intimate partners in relationships, and since my study primarily focuses on women, most of the perpetrators are men. So that's one of the things that I was showing on my study. Hi.
It's very interesting.
Thank you. One of the questions that was asked to me why I chose this topic is because a lot of women experience verbal abuse and they don't recognize it as a serious form of abuse. A lot of ad campaigns and public service announcements really stress domestic violence from a physical abuse standpoint, but not so much from a verbal abuse. So a lot of women are suffering from depression, which is what my hypothesis suggests, that they're suffering from depression at a greater rate than women that don't experience verbal abuse.
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
So if you're suffering from depression and you're taking, you continue to take the verbal abuse, then the depression continues to worsen and worsen, and you're not dealing with the problem that's causing it because you continue to subject yourself to the verbal abuse.
And what makes them stay in the relationships?
That's a good question. They stay in the relationships, one, because they don't recognize the verbal abuse as being serious enough to get out. They see it as another way of possibly being justified because they feel like, well, he only treats me this way because he loves me, and that is acceptable. It's acceptable because there's not so much awareness saying that it's wrong and the health effects of the depression and the other negative health outcomes. They don't see it as being...
Grew up in a family where there was verbal abuse, you don't notice it as being abnormal.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hope Salcedo. My interest area is in active imagination dream work, especially in the area of hospice patients. And what that means, active imagination is a technique of therapy developed by Carl Jung, who was a psychiatrist in Switzerland, and he believed that dialoguing with your inner self and dreams is very important. And one of those things that you can learn from your dreams is to be able to fully appreciate all the images that come up, and then also to be able to work with those images to learn something about yourself. So in my research project, what I did was talked about hospice patients who are experiencing spiritual crisis, which basically means that they're in the end of their life and that they also may have some issues about what that means for them spiritually, because nobody knows what happens when you die, and one of the things that comes up could be a lot of anxiety about death. So what we did was I looked at some of the research that has gone on in the past about images and how those images can affect a person and be able to maybe relieve some anxiety that they're experiencing. In the case of hospice individuals, usually people are only in hospice for about 21 days, which is a very short time. So this research was only done for 2 weeks, and 2 different tests were done on the death depression scale, which is basically 17 true or false statements that ask questions about how you feel about your impending death, and hopefully that would give implications for how social workers can better address the needs of hospice individuals at the end of their life, and even some alternative treatments for spiritual anxiety and death concern. So I don't know.
Can you talk about how you picked your topic?
Sure. I have a master's degree in psychology and Jungian studies through the Jung Center here in Houston, and I became really interested in dreams based on that previous study, and it's always fascinating to me what comes up for people when you start talking and opening up about their dreams, and everybody seems to want to be like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? But nobody may take the time to actually sit down and do a very scientific study about, or a disciplined study about what those dreams could mean, especially in spiritual endeavors or for hospice individuals who, if they're at the end of their life, maybe somebody isn't focusing on them as much and just trying to give them drugs. And the other idea was that if you can do another kind of treatment that isn't drug-induced, sometimes for hospice patients, the interaction of drugs can be really, really detrimental to them. So we're trying to maybe give them another alternative to that. Yeah. All right.